Good evening. Well, welcome to the February 19th, 2026 meeting of the Minnetonka Planning Commission. The Commission generally meets twice a month on a Thursday. The schedule and tentative meeting agendas can be obtained by calling the Planning Division or by checking the city website at minnetonkamn.gov. The Commission holds public hearings on land use applications for which the city notifies property owners within at least 400 feet of the site and posts plans and information on the website. For some applications, the city also places signs on the properties and notices in the Sun Sailor. The Commission makes recommendations to the City Council on rezonings, subdivisions, conditional use permits, and amendments to the city's comprehensive guide plan, zoning ordinance, and subdivision regulations. We make final decisions on site plans, signage requests, variance requests, and expansion permits, unless these requests are part of an application that must be heard by the City Council. In that case, the Commission makes a recommendation to the Council for a decision. Anyone dissatisfied with a final Planning Commission decision may appeal to the City Council by submitting a written request to staff within 10 days of this meeting. From a broader standpoint, the city's comprehensive guide plan, zoning ordinance, and subdivision regulations are the city's best efforts to codify the balance between individual rights and community responsibilities. Individual rights are easy to understand. Community responsibilities are more subtle, but the idea is that we as members of the community agree to limit our individual rights for the common good of the group. The Planning Division, the Planning Commission, and the City Council are charged with managing this sometimes difficult balancing act. We ask that you keep this broader perspective in mind as we review tonight's applications. To make meetings more efficient, in 2026, the boards and commissions have introduced a new process for public comments. If you wish to speak at tonight's meeting, please fill out a public comment card, which is available at the podium here. Please include your name and the topic that you wish to address. The cards will be collected prior to the public hearing on that item. Then I'll announce your name when it's your turn to speak. I apologize in advance for any name mispronunciations. Again, welcome. Ms. Thomas, please call roll.
Minion.
Here.
Johnson. Here. Banks.
Here.
Waterman.
Here.
Scheer.
Here.
Brink.
Here.
Chair Maxwell.
Here. There are 7 of us seated tonight. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is item 3, approval of agenda. And I believe there's a change memo. Ms. Thomas, would you review that with us, please?
Yes, Chair Maxwell and Commissioners, you'll recall that at your last meeting in January, we had election of officers. Chair Maxwell and Vice Chair Waterman were reelected to their positions. We did hold off on appointing a Sustainability Commission liaison at that meeting until we had a full Planning Commission. And so we're suggesting, if the Commission is ready, that you could do that appointment this evening as item 9B.
All right, thank you, Ms. Thomas. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the agenda considering that change notice adding item 9B?
I'll make that motion.
Motion Waterman. Is there a
I'll
second? Second Minion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The next item is the approval of the minutes from January 22nd, 2026. Does anybody on the commission have changes to make to that agenda? No? Anybody want to make a motion to approve the agenda from January 22nd, 2026? Motion, Brink?
Yep, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Oh, go ahead.
Second, Waterman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next is report from staff.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. A few items to report on. First, I just want to welcome our 2 new Planning Commissioners, Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Scheer. Did I say that right, Commissioner Scheer? Okay. We just want to welcome you to the commission, a very good body here that you're going to be working with, and we're glad to have you. Second, the updating on the February 2nd meeting of the City Council. We had one item on that agenda that the Planning Commission had reviewed. That was the Elevair Second Edition plat. If you remember, it was on the east side of Plymouth Road, 2 existing properties, 2 homes were torn down. They essentially were moving a lot line there, but because of the very lengthy existing legal descriptions for those properties, we recommended they come through the platting process to really clean things up. That was approved by the City Council per your recommendation. Then my only other announcement is that your next meeting, regularly scheduled meeting, is March 5th. We actually have 5 items scheduled for that agenda. For the new commissioners, you may not understand why that's a big deal, but we've had some very small agendas lately. So as of right now, we do have 5 items on that agenda. I have nothing else, so I turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Appreciate that report. Moving right along in our agenda here, next is report from planning commissioners. Does anybody have anything they'd like to report this week? All right. Well, I'd like to welcome our 2 new members. We're very glad to have you. Looking forward to leveraging your experience in other cities and planning commissions. That experience is quite valuable, so I'm excited that we can incorporate that into our work. All right, next item is the consent agenda, item 7. We don't have anything on that one, so we'll move on to public hearings, which is the non-consent agenda. Before I begin, I'd like to go over the process, if I can find the process. So for this public hearing, the staff will start out by giving a report on the item. Then the commission will ask questions of staff. Next, the applicant will be invited forward to make a presentation or to offer comments, and then the commission will ask questions of that applicant. After they're finished, then the public hearing will be opened to give anyone present the opportunity to comment based on the comment cards that you have filled out if you wish to speak. Please come to the podium, state your name and your address for the record. Please keep your comments brief and try not to repeat points already made. The first item on tonight's non-consent agenda item is item 8A, maximum height and maximum copy and graphic area variance for a scoreboard at 10700 Cedar Lake Road. And Ms. Rooney, I believe this is your item.
Correct. Good evening, Chair Maxwell, commissioners, new commissioners. Before you this evening is a variance application for the Hopkins High School scoreboard. For this project, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution denying the height and copy and graphic area variance for the scoreboard at Hopkins High School. 5 affirmative votes are needed to complete this request. The subject property is located in the northwestern portion of the city, just east of Hopkins Cross Road and west of Highway 169, The 57-acre site is part of one of 3 properties that make up the school district site off of Royals Drive and Hillside Lane West. The site itself covers or includes, I'm using the wrong mouse, includes Tanglin Elementary, the high school, as well as North Middle School, and then the athletic facilities for the high school. The property itself is relatively flat, with its highest point along the high school here. The surrounding properties sit at a grade much higher, or at least 20 feet higher than the grade down at the field. So these neighboring properties do sit above that. The stadium, the existing stadium scoreboard, which is highlighted in yellow here, is northwest of the high school and southeast of the elementary school. It currently, which is shown here, is 30 feet tall and 275 feet in area, so significantly smaller than what's being proposed this evening. The applicant is proposing to construct a new south-facing scoreboard. So the new scoreboard is highlighted in red. The existing is highlighted in yellow. These are approximate, just to kind of give you an idea of visualization of what's out there and what's proposed. The proposed scoreboard is planned to be constructed at 41.5 feet tall and be 1,134 square feet in area. That depiction, or the proposed sign, is illustrated here for you. Signs in residential districts are required to be at, or cannot be any larger or taller than 35 feet in height. Additionally, code standards allow for 500 feet in square feet per sign face, or 1,000 feet or 1,000 square feet in copy and graphic area. That area is determined by the smallest four-sided figure that encompasses the entire sign. Using that measurement, the scoreboard would be about 134 feet over that maximum allowed. Therefore, the proposal requires both a height and copy and graphic area variance. I'll note too, the proposal does include signage at both the concession stand and ticketing booth. However, those do not require a variance per code requirements. And then I included a couple more slides to give some context. So the proposed scoreboard, again in red, the existing in yellow. The closest home, or the closest property to the proposed scoreboard, would be about 341 feet to the north. However, the sign is south facing, so it wouldn't face the front of the sign. The closest property that would have a visual of the sign is located to the southwest, 685 feet roughly. And then I'll note here that this is a general depiction. This is done by staff, so it's not perfect. But we can generally expect that one or two other properties here will have, or will be visually impacted by the sign. With Tanglin Elementary here, we can expect that the properties directly west won't be visually impacted. They won't be able to see that. Although this is a one-story building, it's about probably 10 to 15 feet in height total, so being able to see this is probably very unlikely. And then I will note that the stadium stands right here will probably reduce the impact on these south-facing properties. However, like I said, these properties further to the south do sit significantly higher, about 20 to 30 feet, depending on the property, than the proposed scoreboard. It's hard to say whether or not they'll have a full visual, but I would assume that they may be able to see parts of the sign or scoreboard. So for the variance requirements, the city can approve a variance if it meets all of the variance standards listed below. Upon review, staff found that the application does not meet the intent of the ordinance, as the proposal would result in a greater visual impact to the adjacent residential properties. The proposal is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan because of that impact on the existing neighborhood. And lastly, when reviewing for practical difficulties, staff found that there is not a practical difficulty in meeting the city code requirements. A new larger scoreboard could be reasonably constructed and still meet the maximum or minimum requirements we have via code. There aren't any unique circumstances to this specific property that would allow for the sign to be larger than what's allowed. And due to its increased height, size, and visibility, we do expect that it would be prominent or intrusive to the neighboring residential properties. And then again, the resolution is before you, or the recommendation, excuse me, is before you. Staff is here to answer any questions, as well as someone on behalf of the school district is here as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Rooney. What questions do commissioners have for staff? Commissioner Johnson.
The nature of the sign. In reading the report, appears to be quite different in that this one will be illuminated and the current one is much more passive. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is it also capable of movement, like a dynamic sign?
Yeah, Commissioner Johnson, this is a dynamic sign as part of the sign here in the center would have replays of the following play.
Does it have sound?
It does not have sound.
Okay. Is it capable of making sound with it or not?
Commissioner Johnson, I will probably defer to the representative on behalf of the applicant to that. It's my understanding that it doesn't, but I would prefer he answer that.
Thank you.
Who else? Commissioner Minion.
Something I didn't pick up on earlier is the height of the building, and as the plan we look at it, the building to the left of the sign, how is that in relationship to the visual, the top of the DAC board? Do we have any elevations of that kind of depict the building height in relationship to the actual visual point? And where I'm going with this is, I really like the graphs you put out there with the red stuff like that, but will that building block or shield the actual, if there's a light pollution coming off, would that shield those at all, or?
Yeah, Commissioner Minion, I'm assuming you're referring to the elementary school here, correct?
Yes, sir.
I would assume, I mean, this is a one-story building, so again, I would assume this is not exact, but we would probably not be able to see this sign from Vernon Circle here. However, I can't say the same for light. It just depends on how much it emits out of the sign.
Okay. And then in general, what year was how many square acres is the school grounds? If you include the playing fields, the buildings, the outbuildings, how many acres is that?
Chair and Commissioner Minion, I'm going to jump in because I ran those numbers before this meeting for you. So in total, the entirety of the school campus, just based on my rough calculation, is about 86 acres. The school buildings proper, so the school buildings and the parking lots associated with those school buildings account for about 33 acres. And then the fields, again, about 31 acres. I think there's probably about 25% of the site that I would call in its natural green state. There's a lot of green on the property, but I think natural green state is more on the edges and in pockets throughout the campus. Does that answer the
That's
question?
a wonderful answer. The distance from the back of the sign was good, but the direction, and this might be a really hard one, I'm looking for a rough guess. The direction from the front of the sign to the nearest road, basically Minnetonka, or not Minnetonka, I forgot the name of the road. Yes, Cedar Lake, thank you. How far is that roughly?
We can get that information for you, Commissioner Minion.
Okay.
Susan will look it up.
Sorry, I should have explained it earlier when I wrote my notes, sorry.
No.
But thank you.
Commissioner Waterman.
Thanks. Two questions. Are there other scoreboards of this size in Minnetonka, like Minnetonka High School or anywhere else?
Yeah, Commissioner Waterman, I did check just to verify the existing size of the scoreboard, which does have replays on it, is 600 square feet total in sign area. It's 30 by 20 feet in size.
So wait, would that be, the square footage would be compliant because it's less than 1,000?
Correct. Yep. So it's 400 square feet under the maximum allowed.
So it does work?
Yes.
All right. And then can you provide any color on just any of the back and forth with the district on this? Was it a surprise for recommendation? That might be a question for that, or recommendation of denial, or was there any back and forth?
Yeah. Thanks, Commissioner Waterman. It wasn't a surprise, I believe, to staff or to the applicant. We had received some of the initial drawings from them earlier, actually at the end of 2025, and we had provided comment on what our recommendation would be. They moved forward with the variance application, so it wasn't a surprise to anyone.
Commissioner Brink.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a couple questions here. Could you repeat for me again what is allowed under the ordinance for the height and the square footage, and then also what's being proposed?
Yes.
And then secondly, was there any kind of notification sent out to the residents that might be affected? And if so, was there any feedback from that?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I'll start with what is allowed per code. So the city code allows for up to 35 feet in height total. What's being proposed is 41 and a half. What's allowed for copy and graphic area is 1,000 square feet, and what's being proposed is 1,134 square feet. And then does that answer your first question?
Yeah, thank you.
To answer your second question, Commissioner, yes, there were quite a few property owners that were notified, I believe over 400, just in terms of that 400-foot distance around the property itself. We didn't have any comments back from people in the neighborhood regarding concerns for the scoreboard.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Minion.
May I ask that you bring up the elevation view of the sign that showed the height off the ground?
Of the existing sign, excuse me, Commissioner?
No, of the new sign. And there was an actual drawing that had the dimensions on it. What I'm getting at is where are we at to the height of the dynamic portion of the sign? So if we're 6.5 feet too tall, how much of that 6.5 feet is made up of the lion's mane to his crown or his chin hair? I just know there's a name for it. I don't know what the name is, but the bottom of the lion's hair to the top of the crown. Do we have an idea how high that is, or how high it is to the top of the deck board?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, Commissioner Minion. I will defer to the representative on the behalf of the applicant.
Thank you.
Chair, if I could jump in since Mr. Minion had the question about distance. From the face of the proposed scoreboard to the paved surface of Cedar Lake Road, it's about 2,200 feet. And I believe, Commissioner Minion, the drawing that you're referring to, yes, is in the report on page 2 of the report. So the sign itself is on posts that are about 10 feet high, and then from the bottom of, I think we call it the mane of the lion to the top of the crown is 7 feet. So there's obviously there's opportunity in one of two places to lower the height.
I guess what I'm getting at is if we do the simple math and we take the 7 feet to get down to the dynamic part of the board, we're pretty close to being under the 35-foot height then, correct? Would that be correct?
That's correct, Commissioner Minion.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Other questions for the staff at this time? Commissioner Scher.
Do you know what the output is of the signs, both the dynamic and the logo and sign?
Thank you, Commissioner Scheer. I will defer to Neil on the light output of the sign.
Commissioner Banks.
Yeah. Thanks, Chair. Just for my clarification, the 1,134 square feet, is that just the part that is illuminated, or is that the size where they have the for the anchor partners as well?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Commissioner Banks. The 1,134 square feet is this whole area here. We measure the smallest square that encompasses the entirety of the sign, so it wouldn't be the posts underneath. It would be just the sign face that you're looking at on the screen before you.
Okay.
Including the founding partners, excuse me.
Yeah. And do we know how big is the area that would be illuminated? The dynamic screen?
Sure. Yes, Commissioner Banks. We have that here, so it looks like it would be a little over 14 feet by 24 feet.
Thank you.
All right, I've got one question, just sort of regarding the staff recommendation to deny. That's related primarily to the surface area and the height of that sign, but is it tied to the signage on the concession stands? And is there an option to approve that sign separate from a variance on the illuminated sign?
Yeah, Chair Maxwell, that's a great question. Yes, staff is currently just opposed to the scoreboard itself. The signage on the concession stand and ticketing booth do not require a variance, and if you are interested in moving forward with a changed recommendation, then if the planning commissioners were to decide to do so, you're able to do so.
Thank you. Any other questions before we bring the applicant up? No. All right, I'll invite the representative from the school district to come forth and make any sort of presentation comments and take questions.
Chair, if I could make one IT comment, and I apologize to Neil. The screen here in front of you is not working, so I'll have to, if you're looking at a screen, you have to look up there. I apologize. No problem. Thank you.
All right, come on up.
Thank you, Planning Commission. My name is Neil Tessier, Neil Tessier. I am the consultant for the school district, and I work for Safe Engineering. So there was a lot of questions, and maybe we can go this way. I know you had some distance questions, you had some area questions and illumination questions, so I want to make sure that I don't miss any of those questions. So your distance questions, can I hand this out? Is that okay? We did a little graphic for you, and it came out recently, so that's why it wasn't in your packet. But yes, we are almost 2,400 feet to Cedar Lake Road. And then some of the other properties range anywhere between 1,600, 1,400, as you'll see on the graphic. But everything to the north is facing the back of the scoreboard, so there won't be any impact visually there. And then I think, what I'd like to do is the area that's really most visually impacted is the area that goes to the southwest. And some of those properties range 600 to 1,000 feet to visually see the scoreboard. Some of that visual impact, there's a storage building right next to it to the west, and that has about a 20-foot roof height on it. So some of the scoreboard will be blocked by that. And then the back side of the bleachers, press box height is almost 50 feet in elevation. And then the top row of the bleachers is in the 40-foot range. So some of that will get screened. But like you had mentioned, some of those properties are higher elevation as you get into that far west side of the site. There is significant tree coverage in those properties, and in the wintertime, the scoreboard won't be on at all. So there will be, a leaf impact on, visualization to the front of the scoreboard. Do you have any more questions on the distance, sightline distance?
No more on that, but if you have more to say, go ahead, and I don't want to interrupt you.
No.
Go ahead and finish your...
I'm good with the sightline distance.
Okay. Chair Sure brought up the point of intensity. Will you talk a little bit, are you a Daktronics? Do you know Daktronics well?
I know these scoreboards very well, yes.
So you talk a little,
I'm not the Daktronics person, but we've installed several of these in high schools around the metro area.
will you talk a little bit about intensity and kind of, I think we share kind of the same heart is that if we were to approve this and if we were to fail, is there other options for people in the community that live near it if there was a nuisance to be able to detune or turn down the scoreboard intensity?
That's a great point. So the max intensity with the LED systems, they rate them in NIT units, and it's got a maximum 8,000 NIT unit, which would be, you know, your 4K home television, very bright, very vivid. But it has the ability to drop all the way down to 2,000 NIT units. So if it is something that we are getting, you know, feedback from the neighborhoods that it's too bright, we certainly can turn that down.
Will you talk a little bit about the normal setting for normal operation?
It kind of depends upon the user. So, you know, if it's a afternoon type game, you know, they're going to want to turn that intensity up. If it's a evening game, we certainly can turn the intensity down. You know, obviously during the daytime, sunset conditions, you'd want the scoreboard to be brighter, but that certainly wouldn't have a visual impact during the daytime as much as it would at night. So we certainly could turn it down at night to minimize the light disturbance to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else on the commission have questions for the applicant? If you're finished with an overall presentation, I'll just direct questions to
Yeah,
you.
I think I'll just field questions if
Yeah.
that's okay.
Commissioner Banks.
Thanks, Chair. I'm sorry, Neil, I didn't catch your last name.
Tessier.
Tessier. All right, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I just have two questions. One, you mentioned it would not be used in the wintertime, but can you just tell us how often would it be used and for which events? Would it be, obviously, football? It looks like track and field. Would it be used for track and field? Would it be used for any other sports in the summer or spring? How often do you plan that you would imagine that they would use the?
I mean, it's a multi-purpose scoreboard and would cover all of the different activities that they play at the stadium: football, soccer, and lacrosse. This particular field is primarily used for JV and varsity activities. There's another field further south for 9th and 10th graders. Every now and then they like to play on the stadium field, so I would anticipate that they would use that. The video portion of it, you know, needs to be run by people that have the capabilities of running those types of systems. And sometimes at those lower level games, obviously the scoreboard portion, you know, first down, how many yards to go, score, that type of thing would definitely be on, but that very low impact on sight, light, visual impacts. So primarily the varsity games.
So no metrics as to, like, over the course of 365 days, you know, we know how many home games there are, we know how many sports. Any idea of the exact or maybe close to number that the board would be used?
So the football typically will have, you know, 7 roughly home games. Boys and girls varsity soccer in that same, you know, relative numbers, probably 10 each there. It really, the video portion of this won't be used much at all during the track portions. And most of those are run during the daytime anyway. So the visual impact on the scoreboard would be minimal at night.
Okay. And then, thanks for that. Can you explain what are your challenges with doing a smaller board that would conform to our, so you wouldn't need a variance?
Sure. So my understanding, and the Daktronics people who installed the Minnetonka High School scoreboard, is the video screen is exactly the same size. It's just there's ancillary pieces that go around this scoreboard are larger. So the video screen really is one of the smaller pieces that they actually make. They make much bigger video screens for scoreboard situations. So we've minimized that component of it. There are some pieces, like that top dress piece. We can, play with that. There's, do we have can we pull up the scoreboard image? I'd rather have the one that shows the video.
Oh.
So right underneath where, you have your first down and the score and the time, there's some lattice structure there. We can, move that around. We can square off the top where we've got Hopkins Royals, and we can shrink down the size of the head of that lion. And then what we like to do is we like to be, 10, 12 feet up off the ground so, everyone can see the scoreboard and the video replay. So we can tweak that height, but don't want to get too close to the ground because then it just doesn't become visually attractive for the spectators. So yes, in a long answer there are some things where we can tweak the exterior portions, but the video screen is something that's about as small as we get for being able to see that and have it functional.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Waterman, you have a question for the applicant?
Just to piggyback on that, so you see areas to tweak it that you think could get it into compliance such that a variance wouldn't be needed, or even so?
It's going to be really close on the size. We can get it down to the 35-foot height, for sure. We'll be really close on the 1,000 square feet.
How did Minnetonka High School do it?
I don't have all this, so we're gonna broadcast the sound as far away from the neighborhoods as possible. So no sound coming out of the scoreboard whatsoever.
Other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Brink?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to piggyback a little bit on Commissioner Waterman's comments about the Minnetonka High School sign. So I don't know if this question is for you or for staff, but does the Minnetonka High School sign, does that meet the ordinance?
Yes, Commissioner, that would meet, or their existing signage would meet the ordinance that we have today. It's about 600 square feet in total size area, which is 30 by 20. And the sign itself, other than that, meets the height requirement as well.
But it sounds like the graphic, the dynamic area is pretty much the same size, so I'm presuming there's less advertising or other things on their sign.
I would assume. I don't have the exact measurements for the dynamic area of the Minnetonka High School scoreboard at this time.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? All right, I have one. We've talked about the illuminated portion. I just want to make sure we're not making an assumption that's incorrect. So there's the square portion in the middle, that would be where replays would come, a video screen. Is any of the other part, like the Hopkins Royals, is any of that illuminated, backlit, or is it just the rectangular screen in the middle that's illuminated?
That's the primary lit feature, but the blue underneath has LED lights on it for like 1st and 10 and the time left in the game. So that portion of it is also illuminated. But as far as all the other advertising in the top piece and any of that, there's no backlight. There won't be any backspill towards that neighborhood to the north.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant before we open the public hearing? No. All right, thank you. We may have you back after the public hearing to answer any questions from them.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I can open the public hearing. Ms. Thomas, do you know whether there were any cards that were submitted?
We did not receive any cards submitted.
All right, so at this point, Ms. Thomas, please correct me if I'm wrong here. I still need to open a public hearing, correct? And then if someone hasn't submitted a card, since we don't have that many people here, I will allow someone to make comments if they did not fill out a card. So I'll open the public hearing. Anyone here who wants to make comments can come up and state your name, your address for the record, and give your feedback.
To this. I forget this more often than not. I am Steve Thompson. I live at 2204 Hillside Circle. That's across Hillside Lane from the tennis courts. I have a few comments. The focus of the earlier comments seem to be on the video impact of the scoreboard, and I heard mention of Cedar Lake Road. My gosh, that's a quarter of a mile away. I can throw a tennis ball, which I have many times, from my house back up to where the scoreboard is now. The concern I have is it's not the 4 or 5 games that it's going to be on during the seasons. It's every day that we drive by, every day that I look out my patio door and I see the back of the existing scoreboard, which is significantly smaller than the one that's being proposed. It's like looking into the backside of an old barn every day, every time I go by. And there's the visual impact. We already have plethora of buildings, sheds, other signage, the new Royals tennis signs in letters this high that are seen all the way up and down Hillside Lane. I'm concerned about the visual impact of this. The backside of that thing is nothing nice to look at. And I'm not even thinking about what it would be like to look at the lights. I was going to suggest why they don't move the scoreboard to the south end of the field, but now I see how big it is. I don't think I would want that either. So the other thing, I didn't catch the gentleman's comments he said about sound. They were talking about sound, and I wasn't sure if the sound is going to be incorporated into the new scoreboard or if they're using the existing sound system. I did hear a comment that the sound isn't going to permeate out of that area. Believe me, it does now. We have complained about the sound of the existing system, which is 20 years old? I cannot sit on my deck. I cannot leave my patio door open in the fall when there are games going on. I am locked into my house on nice days, nice evenings in the fall. That sound, I can hear every play that's broadcast. I don't have to buy a ticket to go see the game. I listen to it in my house. And I'm not the one house that was surveyed on this. I live 80 feet beyond where your line goes. The only information I have about this is what I saw on my yellow card that I came in the mail that mentioned the meeting today. But just so to put things clear, there is a sound issue that the school has yet to. They promised me they were going to redo the sound system. That was about 12 years ago, and I cannot see that anything has been done. So if the sound is a part of this, it is erroneous to say that it won't permeate to the neighborhood. And I just hope that people on Cedar Lake Road don't have to hear it. That being said, I appreciate the work that's been has been done to research this, but I think more needs to be done. Mainly, I encourage and support the commission's plan on not approving it, or the recommendation. But believe me, it is a nuisance to the neighborhood. We've put up with it, but it is it's in our lives every day. I keep losing that all the time. Yeah, it's a joke around my house. I keep forgetting where I put it. Hopefully I'll be done within a few months. Thank you very much anyway. I'm rambling on. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Thompson. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to make any comments at this time? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And I will bring it back to the commission for any final questions of staff. I will say in response to your question, Mr. Thompson, that the sound is not included in this application. I do have one question I also heard during the applicant's presentation that I'd like to have you, Ms. Thomas, if you could comment on. There's a question around, was a sign variance required for the Minnetonka High School scoreboard? Yes or no, and can you elaborate if yes?
Yeah, Chair, I will start, and Ms. Rooney, who's done more research, can clarify. I was going through our database here of planning applications, and I do not see that a variance was applied for that sign. That may be, I think it's two reasons. Number one, because it meets the code requirement. Number two, the location of that sign, if you've been to Minnetonka High School and their field, a sign that is not visible from off-site is not a sign under our ordinance. And so even if it were slightly larger, the sign ordinance itself would not apply. These are just a different context for these two different high schools.
Chair Maxwell, there was a permit application obviously applied for with the sign that was installed in 2022 at Minnetonka High School, but to our understanding there was no variance application done that went through Planning Commission review during that time, as it met all code standards.
Thank you for that clarification to make sure we have the correct facts on the record here. All right, who wants to start on the commission with any final questions? Commissioner Scher.
I was just looking for clarification on what part of the sign was illuminated again. So in looking at the plans, it looks like the top ID, the partner panels, the video display, and the scoring display. Is that correct, or has there been a modification?
Could you come up again, Mr. Tessier, and answer that question for us again, please?
Yes. It's just, they can see that screen, right? See where the football players are on that screen? That's the only part that's illuminated, other than the numbers where you see the 1st and 10 yards to go. All of the areas where the Lion's Head is, and that lattice structure, and the signage on either side of where the football players are playing, and everything underneath that long, wide blue strip, none of that is illuminated.
Just to clarify, in the documentation, it does show that the partner panels, the 4 backlit partner panels are lit. Scoring display, I understand. Video display, I understand. And top ID. So that has backlit channel lettering. So is that, I just looking for clarification if the plans are actually different.
Those will
There's
not
been a change.
be lit. It's just that center section and the wide blue section. And the wide blue section isn't all lit. It's just the digital readouts.
Thank you.
And we'll make clarification in plan submittal. And then I agree with this gentleman. The backside of that existing sign is not attractive. We have rusty steel beams. The backside is very unattractive. This will have, not a stainless steel, but it'll be a nice smooth back to it, and it'll look much more attractive than the existing sign.
Thank you, Mr. Tessier. Anybody else have questions on the commission? All right, thank you. All right, who else has, oh, it sounds like we're ready for comments. No more questions. Who wants to start with comments? Commissioner Minion.
I'm the guy that absolutely loves our sign codes. I like keeping control on our signs. I do disagree with the city's opinion that there's not a unique circumstance here, and I'm looking at this at 180 degree. I'm not looking at the full 360. Is that 2,200 feet away from the illuminated sign is where the city, you would see things with your car when you drive by. And I think of the sign application, it was good to hear about what they did at the other school because it wasn't actually visible from the street. And that, to me, that's the effective side. The back side of this sign will be really nice. I'm very well versed in Daktronics products, and it will look much nicer than the existing scoreboard sign. But I am concerned about the neighbors that are to the south and west, and effectively it looks like we're only impeding their view by about 2 homes. When I drove the property, there's a good amount of trees there. There's a good amount of shading already in place. I think that's a good way to handle that. The other thing is that the actual overall size might be a little bit larger if it's not illuminated. I see that as a good revenue source for the schools. So if we can give them some way to generate an income to support the schools, I think that's a great thing to be able to be supportive of our schools and their athletic programs. I'm not sure of the sizes of the existing other schools and how big their anchor partners and founding partner signs are, but to me it's not terribly intrusive. And just the distances in general, I think, are make this unique in the fact that it's the side that faces people is back into the school. It's 86 acres of school property that are kind of surrounding the sign. So I'm very much in support of it just as it stands. If there's things that we can do to lower the sign a little bit, I think I'd encourage that. But by my math, in order to hit that height for the dynamic part of the sign, and I get that's not how the rules were made, but the dynamic part of the sign and the stuff that would impact people we're actually 6 inches below in height than what our code allows. So I'm in support of the project, and I'm interested in what you guys have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Minion. Who's next? Commissioner Waterman.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, interesting food for thought there, Commissioner Minion. I still agree on balance with the city on this one. A lot of good points. You made a lot of good points in the presentation. I do think that it's also unique that the site is occupied by a school, but I did have some just difficulty around that there might not be like a true practical difficulty to just shrinking the sign by a little bit. It is a school. There's a field there. There's art. I would imagine, though there's disruption, there's some accustomed to a lot of light and sound. I was also surprised that there's just not more like any neighborhood feedback and commentary. But overall, I mean, it does look like there are a lot of houses that are a little bit higher up that would be impacted. It's going to be new in that it's dynamic. It sounds like the Minnetonka High School sign is in our district and is compliant. It was very interesting, that context about how that one might not be a sign, if I'm interpreting that correctly, just because it is shielded, whereas this is pretty close to a residential neighborhood, so it should fall under the sign variance. And it just seems like there's a workaround to reduce the impact on the surrounding area. So very interesting points. I think I would agree with the city on this one, but interested to keep talking about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Waterman. Commissioner Brink.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to thank staff and the applicant for your presentation and the work that was involved putting this together. I'm inclined to go along with staff's recommendation to deny, as was presented at the beginning of the item here tonight. Approval of the variance must meet, I think it was 3 requirements there. Intent of the ordinance, no practical difficulties, and consistency with the comp plan. Doesn't meet any of those. But that said, the dimensions and other data that was given to us tonight, it doesn't seem like the sign is really that far off from meeting the ordinance. If I've got my numbers right, allowed is 1,000 square feet, and proposed is a little over 1,100 square feet. And it, just from what I hear, it sounds like some tweaking maybe could be done to the sign to get it to meet the ordinance. It doesn't seem like it's all that far off, both from the square footage and the height. So I would ask the applicant to go back and see what can be done to just get it to meet the ordinance.
Thank you, Commissioner Brink. Who else has comments? Commissioner Johnson.
My feeling on this is you have to consider the precedent it would set by allowing this variance when you really can't make the findings. The staff report was, I thought, very good on that. And I think there is a possibility to have a reasonable sign there. I mean, cut the lion's head off, do something like that. But, I mean, the part that's important is, the video aspect of it, the scoring, that sort of thing. And so I would certainly encourage them to go back and make it code compliant. Otherwise, you're going to have, you have a soccer field scoreboard, you have other ones, and you set a precedent of saying, oh, this isn't too bad. Well, change the ordinance if that's what you think is reasonable. That's just my thinking.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Who's next? Commissioner Banks.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was a little indifferent on this one. Coming in, I as well went out to the site, kind of different angles, trying to see what that might look like. And I was really hoping that someone would have been able to provide like a AI drawing of what it would look like in the neighborhood, and maybe even 3D or something. But to one point, the applicant and what's being proposed is not that far off from our ordinances in terms of the overall square footage and the height. But where I differ, I believe, mostly is that the part that is illuminated, like when I think of a sign in some regard, if this was a business or a billboard on the side of the road, it would be on and flashing, 365 days of the year. I don't see this board being used, but maybe 50 to maybe 60 times per year, right? At least the dynamic board with the instant replays. The guys only have 7, 8 home games, so I know it's oversized, but I don't feel like it's going to be overly used in the neighborhood. The 7, I struggle with the part of the board that is 14 feet, which is the dynamic video board. But then we tack on another 7 feet with the Hopkins Royals and the Lions on the top. But when I think about that additional piece there, yes, it's it's the school's logo, it's the school's name. They want to be proud of that. You definitely got to put that somewhere. I agree 100% with Commissioner Minion to have the anchor partners areas and the founding partner areas is just additional revenue, where revenue is hard to come by at schools these days. So when I think of how often this board will be used, and yet how close we are to it being in compliance, I'm in tune to go with approving this, or I guess not approving the denial, if you will. I feel like we're close enough in that there's probably some other additional benefits where, and to me, it's just the usage is not it's not every day. It's not going to be, unfortunately, the sound for Mr. Thompson is an issue, but we're not dealing with the sound with this ordinance or this variance. So I would be in favor of not denying this and allowing the school and the company to move forward.
Thanks, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Scher?
Thank you for the work that you did on this. And I agree that it's very close to code, and I see that there can be some modifications to get it there. 134 square feet. Doesn't seem like much, and it looks like there are opportunities to decrease. Moving the founding partners up, maybe moving the whole sign down so that it gets into compliance. And just, again, my clarification on how much light is this putting off if, with the screen, if any of the partner things are illuminated, as it says in here, even though you've confirmed that it's not. So understanding the height of this and where that light is going to go that previously didn't have light. So how is that going to impact the community? So having it be bigger just creates more light. So I would be inclined to go with staff's recommendation at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Scher. Anybody else have final comments before I make my comments? Commissioner Minion?
Sounds like I'm getting outvoted, but let me throw this out there to support your position, is if you do the math, and may I ask that you flip back to the actual schematic drawing? It's got the silhouette. And if I do my math right, it looks like we have that lattice work on the bottom was 3 feet tall and 36 feet wide, which would be 108 square feet. And I do agree that it needs to be farther off the ground just to keep people from tampering with it. So I don't think lowering the sign would be a good option. But if there was a possibility, I think I'm getting voted down tonight, that might be a good option to do, is to remove that interstitial lattice work. Just a thought.
Thanks. Commissioner Banks?
And then just one additional point with that same picture we're looking at. If we take off the 7 feet of the Hopkins Royal sign and Lion's Head, then we are under 35 feet. I believe, if I did my math correct, we would be at 34.5, which would be the same amount of illumination if correctly that Hopkins Royal is not putting off any light. That's that additional 7 feet. So I get the argument about the illumination and the light, but even if we chop off that top part, then we would be under 35 feet and it would still be the same amount of light. So I don't think adding that is adding any additional light to what would be put out. So.
Thanks, Commissioner Banks. I'd like to make my comments, and I'll give you a bit of context. I went to high school in Texas, the land of Friday Night Lights. My high school stadium seated 11,000 people. I was in a 350-piece marching band, and you could hear us from miles away every Friday night. So I came in today thinking, oh, what's a 35-foot sign with a little tiny screen? What's the impact? So I'd asked staff to put together, okay, what's the closest house? Thinking the light is going to be the issue. And for the intent of the ordinance, consistent with comprehensive guide plan, if we could say there's no impact to the residential neighborhood by increasing this sign. So that's what I was sort of thinking, can we get data to support that argument, to support the variance? And what I hadn't considered before tonight's meeting was the feedback that we got from Mr. Thompson saying that he can see the back of the sign. I was just thinking light. Light is the new thing. Where is the light? But I think his testimony here says that there will be an impact to at least one neighbor, which then does not meet that there's no impact to the residential neighborhood. And I think it has to be no impact, not just small amount of impact. So for that reason, I am in favor of the staff denial, even though my kids go to Hopkins and I think football's important and I really want to approve it. I think it doesn't fit those ordinance requirements. And then I feel a little less guilty about that because I did hear from the applicant that there's some small tweaks that could be made that would still allow this more modern technology that would still meet the ordinance. I also appreciate the thought about setting precedent. Even if we say this is a school facility, yes, we have to meet the residential guidelines, but it's in a school. But what about the soccer field? What about the baseball fields? And then are we going to have now multiple large signs on this property that that then we have to go through this whole thing again? So for that reason, I agree with staff tonight. Any other comments before we make a motion? It sounds like I hear roughly 2 people who might be in favor of denying the staff denial, but it sounds like we're probably ready for a motion to adopt the resolution denying the height and the copy and graphic area variance for a scoreboard. But I do also want to bring up the point I said at the beginning. Would there be any benefit to separating out the sign versus the signage on the concession stand? Ms. Thomas, do you have an opinion on that, whether we should separate those out or just go forward with the full denial?
Chair Maxwell and commissioners, we just looked at each other, and this resolution is only covering the scoreboard itself. It does not have any impact on the signage at the concession stands. Those are things that city staff can approve administratively.
Thank you. All right, so does anybody want to make that motion to adopt the resolution denying the variance?
Yes, I'll make the motion.
Motion Brink. Is there a second? Second Johnson. Staff, will you please poll the commission?
Minion?
No.
Johnson?
Yes.
Shear?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Banks?
No.
Brink?
Yes.
Chair Maxwell?
Yes. So that is, that passes. We needed, I thought we needed 4 votes, but we got 5. So that passes. If anybody would like, disagrees with that decision or would like to appeal, you need to submit that appeal to staff within 10 days of this meeting. All right, moving along in our agenda, we're now on item 9, other business. And item 9A is the update to the zoning ordinance. And I believe, Ms. Thomas, this is your item?
It is, and we just wanted to have a quick presentation before you because we haven't come back before the Planning Commission to talk about where we are at with the zoning update. And I will apologize to Commissioner Johnson. She is on our zoning community work group. Her position now is changing from community representative to Planning Commission representative. And former Commissioner Hansen is going from Planning Commission representative to community representative. So that worked well. But Commissioner Johnson has already seen this presentation. But just for those who may need a refresher, back in 2024, the City Council hired a consulting firm, ZoneCo, out of Cincinnati, Ohio, to perform what we call a diagnostic of the zoning ordinance. They looked at our comprehensive plan and 5 of kind of the big goals in the comprehensive plan against the zoning code to determine what in the zoning code supports those goals, what doesn't impact those goals at all, and maybe what's pushing against those goals. Maybe why aren't we achieving what we hope to achieve in our comprehensive plan? And they noted that we have some misalignment with our goals for housing diversity and density, mixed-use development, sustainability and resilience, and really just simplicity and clarity within our ordinance. I will say that the planners agree with that. When we have to gather as 4 people to try to interpret certain sections of the ordinance, we know it's not simple or clear. And so they brought back to the council this diagnostic report. It's available on the city's Minnetonka Matters website if you'd like to ever take a look at that. And then staff asked the council, what would you like to do with this information? Do you want to just take this information and have it and understand it? Do you want to change certain sections of the ordinance, or do you want to look at the ordinance more broadly? And the council sat with that that question for a while and really mulled it over and decided they wanted to go forward with a whole rewrite. And so that process began back in February of 2025. There were 2 work groups that were established. The staff work group, which is our about 20-person development review team that reviews all of these things. We all reviewed the scoreboard variants that came before you, and we're part of that recommendation. So the staff work group and then the community work group. Those work groups now have met 3 times. First in February of last year, where they reviewed the diagnostic work, and then they took some visual preference surveys. We just have threw things out there, asked some questions, all through Mentimeter, so there was no one knew what anybody else was saying. We asked about setbacks, we asked about different types of housing within traditionally single-family neighborhoods, just to get a general starting point. Then in September, the 2 different community work groups met to get really into the start of a deep dive into what are our zoning districts. So we talked to you a lot about R1, R2, PUD. What are our zoning districts? What do we allow for uses in those right now? What could our zoning districts look like? What could those uses in those zoning districts be? From a permitted, accessory, conditional, and something that would be new to us called a conditional accessory use. And these groups really sat down, and Commissioner Johnson can tell you we had lists of different types of uses, and we said, this sounds good, this doesn't sound good. And then we reviewed work group meetings. Ms. Wishnak is here with us this evening in spirit. We talked about lot standards then, so lot sizes, lot widths, setbacks. The staff work group is really focused on even the more technical things like impervious surface coverage. What does that mean in our community? How does that impact flood zones? How does that impact trees? Those types of things. We took all of the feedback that we had received and we sent it to ZoneCo. And they have been compiling and considering that feedback, drafting a new zoning map, drafting new language. And we meaning staff, just got the first draft of the first section of the zoning new draft information last week. So we're starting to go through that. The next steps in a timeline is staff is going to work through all of that. Then we will meet with the council and provide them an update. The staff and the community work groups will then get that draft language and sit down with it, go through it to the extent that any particular member of those work groups wants to go through it. I know we'll have some people who will read through the entirety of that ordinance. Some will want to have some executive summary information of that ordinance. We will discuss with ZoneCo, and they'll go back to creating something out of that discussion. In June, staff is going to create a series of educational videos and post those, starting with what is zoning and what is the comprehensive plan, why are they important, how are they different, why are we considering a new zoning ordinance, how you can be involved in that. We will provide a summary to the council and then outline public engagement activities and begin the real public engagement once we have something for the public to react to. And those engagement activities are kind of the normal things that you would think about. We're going to be at the farmers market, we'll be at Summerfest, hopefully we'll be at the open house. As we did with the comp plan last time around, we're thinking about some planning and pints activities at the breweries, tabling at the mall, just various things that we're trying to get that public engagement. Hopefully in October we will provide a final draft ordinance to the council, and then the Planning Commission starts to get involved, reviewing what these other groups have reviewed, giving your feedback, holding public hearings. We're hopeful that this work will wrap up by December of this year, but we don't have a firm deadline. We want to make sure that we're doing things slowly, correctly, and considerately as we do all things here in Minnetonka. So that's my update. If you have not subscribed to get updates from the Minnetonka Matters website, the zoning update website, I encourage you to do so that you can continue to see when we post new things, and we will check back with you after our next meetings. Commissioner Johnson doesn't know, but as the Planning Commission liaison, you can provide also a report for the commission of the work that your group is doing. Any questions? Okay.
Looks like no
And
questions.
I should also point out that the council, as they start to consider things, they may direct staff and they may direct the planning commission if they want you to focus on or do some study on a very specific, not just broadly, but a very specific subject matter.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Well, it'll have been, what, 2 years, 2.5 year process by the time we get to the end of the year. So thank you
Yes.
for that work. Hopefully it'll make our job easier on the other side of it. All right, moving on to our next item, which is item 9B, elections. Do you have anything to say here, Ms. Thomas, or do you want me to lead this?
Yeah, this is an old slide. We already have a chair and vice chair. We don't need to do that again. I was just going to point out for the group, since our former liaison, Matt Henry, is no longer here, just to read for you what the role of the Sustainability Commission is, if you don't know. They do meet every other month. So they met in January. Our next meeting will be in March. The city's sustainability coordinator, Allie Sutherland, who is in the planning department, she is the liaison to that commission. I am also there. The sustainability group, they advise the city council on, I just think, all things sustainable. So environmental resources, air, water, energy, land, ecological resources, recycling, landfill, those types of things. Their bigger lift is they are ambassadors for all of those things. So you will see them at community events. They go to businesses and talk to businesses about energy conservation. They're kind of the champions of the city's sustainability efforts. So that is the role of the Sustainability Commission liaison. And I would turn it back to you for your discussion.
Thanks, Ms. Thomas. We had tabled this one at the last meeting because we wanted to have a full commission. There were commissioners there who we knew wouldn't be there, and some new members who would be joining us. So at this point, I'd like to hear if anybody on the commission wants to volunteer for this role, and then, or is particularly passionate about this issue, wants to volunteer, and then from there we can take some nominations. All right, I don't hear any volunteers. Last time we had discussed, Commissioner Minion, that you might like to take on that role. Is that something you're still interested in doing?
I think it'd be a ton of fun, but I think the idea is to pull in some of the new folks to see if they want to get involved. I think that kind of got that vibe last time. So I would encourage, if you guys want to go for it, but I'll volunteer to be the second place. How's that? I want to make sure that other people have the opportunity.
Sure, okay. Is anybody else interested? No. Yeah, you're already on a pretty heavy lift commission, so. All right. Are you interested?
More information, and I would see. Yes. Okay. Here we go. That came out smoothly.
All right. Would anybody like to make a motion to nominate Commissioner Scher as our a representative to the Sustainability Commission.
I'll make the nomination.
Okay, I hear a motion from Commissioner Minion. Are there any other nominations? No other nominations? All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Banks. Do we have to poll here, Ms. Thomas, or can we say aye?
A voice vote would be fine.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And we have a new Sustainability Commission liaison. Thank you. All right, moving on to our final item of the night, which is item 10, adjournment. Who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion Banks.
I have a second.
Second, Minion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.